Hey, BassGeek here, and we're going to talk about something every boater, but even more important, every co-angler should bring along with them when they're fishing tournaments out of town. Now guys, I'm going to talk about a little box that I take with me. No, I don't bring it out on the boat with me. I don't bring it out with me during practice. I actually do generally bring, if I'm practicing with a buddy, if I'm practicing with somebody I don't know, I make sure I talk to them and I try and keep my bag smaller. But I've had the luxury when I was co-angling to be able to practice with my buddy Tim, and he just didn't really care how much crap I brought. As long as I kept it, fairly out of his way, which I always did, he just really didn't care. Bring as many rods and reels, as much tackle as you can. Now, some guys aren't going to want you to do that, no matter if it's practice or whatever. The great thing about being able to do that during practice is that you've got a few more options, and that's what practice is about. You can easily scale that down to really 3 rods, 4 rods, as you get a couple days of practice or more in. But there's something that I always brought with me. Most of the time, me and Tim would split a hotel room when we were out of town, and this is something that I kept in my tackle bag that didn't go in the boat with me. So let me tell you, first off, you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the TRC rod covers, and one of the biggest reasons I'm a big fan of the TRC rod covers is that tip right there. That tip is hard, man. You are not going to break a rod tip off. So make sure you go down in the description, follow that link for TRC, pick you up some of those, 10% discount code right there with it. You'll get a heck of a buy. Now, all that being said, what's in this mysterious box? Guys, when you're out there on the water, when you're traveling, when you're a co-angler, these aren't secure in your boat, you're always beating and banging. And even with the rod socks, if you lean up against them, as a co-angler, your legs are constantly beating on them, you can still bend or even break an eyelet. Now, the great thing is they use a mesh on those TRCs that hardly ever, it is the finest mesh that I have seen on any rod cover out there on the market. The rod eyes just don't come through, okay? They don't. But you can mash them down inside. And that's kind of what happened to me on this particular eyelet here. And as I was bending it back up, it broke. So something that I take with me at all times when I'm traveling for tournaments is this box. Now, like I said, it stays back in the room, but the key to this is I can repair my rod in the room. It's quick, it's easy, it's not pretty. It's not always going to be pretty, but it's quick, easy, and it works. It is solid. Sometimes it's probably more solid than the epoxy that it comes with. But all that being said, as co-anglers, we don't have 3 spares sitting in our boat. So this is something, to me as a co, I've got to have with me anytime I'm traveling away from home and I'm bringing very few to limited rods. Now this is going, like I said, it's going to stay in the truck. It's going to stay back in my luggage or whatever. Don't bring this out on the boat. Don't try to fix this on the boat. It's going to take about 4 or 5 hours for this to cure before you can use it. But basically, what I'm going to show you today is how to replace an eye on the fly. Okay guys, let's take a little look at what I keep in my box. So the very first thing is I just keep some condiment cups. Some little plastic cups. You'll see why in just a second. I keep some basic black thread. Okay. You can go to Mud Hole and pick up all kinds of eyes. And I just keep a, random assortment. Guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. Most of the time, there's some tips. I do keep some tips. I keep some eyelets in here somewhere. Anyway, there's some just standard eyelets. There's some different size tips in here. You can go to Mud Hole and get you some. Just a random assortment of sizes. I do keep me, and you can see this one's about out. I think I might be able to do this last repair. But guys, I use the Gorilla Epoxy. This is the clear. I keep that in there. Keep me a good box cutter, a good knife, and I keep me a little brush. And you can see I've used this brush a lot. And it doesn't matter to me that the brush tip is hard. I'm just using that to spread the epoxy. Some of you guys out there might make your own rods. I'm not looking to do a professional looking job on this. When I'm co-angling or I'm out fishing with a buddy and I've got a limited amount of rods and something like this happens and it kind of takes this rod out of commission for me, I'm trying to get this rod back out on the water as quick as I can. It may even be a bigger eyelet than the two eyelets on either side, but it's an eyelet. And I don't have to worry about it rubbing across things and possibly breaking or fraying my line and costing me fish if that just so happens to be the rod that I need. Now, something else that I do is I've got, a ton of old broken rods. I keep those rod tips. I keep those rod ends, handles, because you can take and scrape off the epoxy and the thread, and you can put those in here and reuse them. You don't have to pay for extra rod eyes. That's a big deal, because over the years, I know you can't see them off camera, but I bet there's something like 15 rods over here stacked in a corner that are broke. And so I can use those eyelets that I know are good or match up the size. And what I'll do a lot of times when I break them, I'll go ahead and scrape a few off, especially if I'm running low. And I'll scrape a few of the different sizes off and go ahead and put them in my little box. So the absolute first thing I'm going to do to make this rod a little easier to turn, a little easier to handle, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this loose LFS off. This is, you can see, man, this rod has, or this reel has been through it with me. This has been my flipping reel, my main go-to heavy duty flipping reel for quite some time. So you can see we've still got part, you can see where it broke off right there. Don't know. But anyway, we've still got part of it in. Sometimes if they just slide out, you can put a little dab of super glue and slide it back in. But this particular eye broke. You can actually still see the little part still in there. What that is, it's that little tab right there. So what we need to do is take our blade and just scrape down this. That way we don't cause any damage to the rod. We're just going to scrape away the top of this, and it'll cut that thread, and we'll clean that off. So generally what I do is I just hold it down right here, and I just kind of scrape away the top portion of that. Try to go back as far as I can without hurting the rod. You know, we're on top of the metal part of the eye, the little foot, for lack of a better term. Okay. My blade is nice and dull. There it comes. Now you can see exactly where that is. And what you can do is you can just take your blade now. Again, be very careful. And that will pop up. You can see it there. If I can get it in focus. But that'll pop up, and now you can just begin to tear off the old, that's just old thread. You can really see it there, old thread and old epoxy that's on there. And then you can just kind of size up exactly where it's going to be. That's about right. The one thing I didn't show you that I keep in there, because I just now forgot or realized I had it, is some super glue. So once you get it down to about that spot, all you have to do now, oh, that's some runny super glue. I like the gel super glue better. It stays put a little better. Is just set that on there. Let it sit. Make sure that it's in line. You know, that's a big key. Make sure it's in line with your other eyelets here. But if you let that set for just a minute, let it dry. Like I said, I prefer the gel instead of the, you know, this is some cheapo version of super glue here. Alright guys, so I've got my thread. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tie me a couple of overhand knots here. Probably just one. Don't, you know, we just really need to keep it as light as we can keep it. We can push it to one side or the other. Tie that bad boy down there. And then normally I would have some scissors. And all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start rolling this. I want to keep it nice and tight. I'm going to start it at the back. Like I said, guys, this may not be pretty. Might not be the best looking job you're going to get. You're going to want to keep it tight. You know, again, we're in a hotel room. This is what you got to think about. We're in a hotel room. We're trying to get this rod back out on the water. And most of the time, we're just going to find something to prop up this rod. And we're going to start spinning this up on our rod. And basically what I'm doing, guys, is I'm just trying to get a coat on there to where now we've got pretty much everything straight. So now that we've got everything covered, the little piece that we cut off for the knot, we're just going to fold it over and we're going to lay it on the bottom. And all that's going to do is it's going to help us secure our last piece. So we'll make a couple more turns, not many. Okay, right about there. We're going to keep it tight. Again, I know this is, like I said, this is not pretty. This is not how you want to do it. If you're, you know, building a brand new rod, but all I'm showing you is this is a quick and easy measure. We're going to run it through that loop and then we're going to pull it through. Now we've got our line secure. We're going to cut off that excess. We're going to put our thread up. We're going to get our cup out. Here's our Gorilla Epoxy. You want to press this out nice and even. So here's your cup. And it don't take a lot, guys. That's about all I really want right there. Now, make sure you put your lid back on. There we go. And something else I do is, so we don't have any more pressure, I make sure I pull back. So now, remember, the Gorilla Epoxy, it dries in 5 minutes. So, all that being said, you got to mix it up real quick. Make sure you mix it up real good. It'll look kind of milky. Then you just get you a little bit out. And you just kind of dab it on there. What I do is I try to keep it as wide as the bait itself, or the thread itself. You just fill in any of those holes. Try not to get it in the eye itself, of course. I get it a little bit around the eye. Just maneuver it around. Like I said, that's about all it takes. Really, that's too much, and I'm real bad about putting too much on there. But that's about it. You can scrape you a little bit off if you want to. Again, guys, this is, you know, I'll say it 100 times. You know, this isn't about making it pretty. You know, if I wanted to build a rod, I'd go ahead and get me a rod and get me all the right tools to make it. But you can see, now I will tell you, in this state, it will run to one side or the other. So you're going to want to leave it there. You're going to want to keep an eye on it for the next, 30 minutes. And, what I generally do, it'll pull up down here a little bit. I'll just turn it right back around. Like I said, you'll have to find something in your room where you're going to be able to, to just keep it moving. But you can see it's really already beginning to smooth out. It's already beginning to clear up. Like I said, not the best job I've ever done. Probably not the worst. But in a pinch, guys, that'll get you done and back out on the water in 30 minutes. Like I said, guys, we're not doing this to be pretty. I'm doing this to get this rod back on the water as quick as I can. And it's a great little box to keep with you when you're traveling, especially as a co-angler. Because, guys, as a co-angler, you only have a few rods. If you break a tip, you need to be able to fix it. Tips are something that I would take with me out on the boat. I would put them in my terminal tackle and a little glue stick out there, even a little thing of super glue. Like I said, that was some cheap super glue. I like the gel. It doesn't blow around. It's not near as messy. If you're in somebody else's boat, that's a big key. This is already drying. And guys, that'll be as stout, I promise. It'll be as stout, as probably more stout than any of these other eyelets on this rod. I'm always open for any tips. You guys that know, that have done this sort of stuff before. Like I said, I've never built my own rod. This was just something that I kind of came up with on the fly one day because it was the only rod I had. There was nowhere else to buy another rod like it. So I went to a Walmart. I bought my Gorilla Glue, some cups, and they had some eyelets. I think the eyelet was maybe a size too big. And I went ahead and repaired it and did pretty good in the tournament the next day. So make sure you leave those questions and comments down in the bottom. Leave any sort of tips that I may not know about. I'm always up for learning from you guys. Don't always look at me as the expert. I'm no expert. I'm all about learning. Want this community to be a give and take. You teach me, I teach you, and we all get better at what we do. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, make sure you ring that bell so you get those notifications when these things come out. And you guys, you beautiful people, you stinking rock. All right, guys, let's see who won this month's Mystery Tackle Box Pro. Here is the video. As you can see, Shaky Head for Winter Bass. You guys have really done well. 11,000 views on that. That is pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and copy the URL. Let's bring it over here. As always, we've done some extra special cleanup. All right, so we got 400 unique commenters. So that's pretty good. 400 unique commenters. Pretty crazy. All right, so here we go. We are going to start the raffle and pick a winner right now. If I could do a good drum sound effect. Dwayne Martin, perfection. I really enjoy the channel. Dwayne, brother, send me an email. I will verify that it is Dwayne. Send me an email to bassgeek.biteme@gmail. I will leave a comment on your comment with that information too. Hey guys, as always, man, I appreciate it. The channel is really picking up again. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you share it out. And I'll see you next time, man. You guys rock.